everyone, welcome to Psychology. I hope you all are doing good. So, this is the last part of the second chapter, and I'm trying to finish the syllabus as soon as possible. I mean, the entire book of Robert Baron and Misra. And one of the students had asked me that how long will it take to finish the entire book. So, I must say that I don't think that it will be possible to cover the entire book before December. So, yeah, it will take some time, but just be patient. And I'm trying my best to cover it as soon as possible. And I'll definitely cover the entire book for you all because this is a very, very important book for a psychology student, be it any student from the graduation level, post graduation, or anywhere. Like, there are so many exams for which you need to refer to this book if you are a psychology student, because all the concepts have been given very clearly in this book, and it's very much important in your college levels as well. So I just thought of covering this book for you all. And there were students who were texting me and who were asking me, requesting me to start the college level syllabus. So yeah, to them I would like to say that you can definitely go through this video series, and you can check the description box of this video. I have given some important links, important playlists from my channel, and if you're having any kind of doubt, then you can just write that down in the comment section below, or you can DM me on my Instagram at the rate pollypsychology. So let's begin quickly. The last topic of this chapter is culture and behavior. So we were studying about the reasons. What could be the possible reasons behind a particular kind of a behavior which a human being does during various events, various situations, different environmental situations, surroundings? What is the reason? So, in our previous videos, we have seen, we have read that there are certain biological reasons for that. There are certain biological mechanisms responsible for a certain kind of a reaction to the stimulus or response, which is also known as the behavior, which we say it behavior, but actually in the scientific term it is response to the stimulus or a reaction to any kind of a stimulus. But now we will study that human beings, they don't just depend upon those biological mechanisms in order to act, but before human beings they do something, they think about it, and they try to act according to their expectations. Like, you consciously think before telling anything in the crowd, or when you're sitting in the classroom and you want to say something to your friend. When the teacher is present, you will notice that you will not say something like, which is, you and your friend would like to share among each other. You will not say that loudly in front of your teacher. Why? Because you know that that is not an appropriate behavior in the classroom. So we try to act accordingly, according to certain social expectations, social norms. So human beings, they don't just entirely depend on the biological mechanisms for anything, like for any behavior or any particular action. There are a lot many reasons behind it, how we act, what we do, what we say. So one among those important reasons is culture. So culture could be two kinds. One is collectivist culture and the other is individualistic culture. So here we will look at how culture influences a human being's behavior. What is the impact of a culture on the human being and the generations of that particular culture, and how does it determines your behavior? So collectivist culture could be seen in the regions of Asia, Latin America, Africa. And the main characteristic features of collectivist culture is they show dependence, they conform. There is conformity in people of that particular culture, which is collectivist, practiced in Asia, Latin America, and Africa. They share group goals, and they also care about the duties, and they prefer long term thinking. I mean, whenever they take any kind of a decision, they are taking any kind of a decision, they think in terms of a long term. Okay, so they think about the future, they think about group goals. I mean, whatever they want to do, they will also think about the entire group or the entire community to which they belong to. So that is why, by the name only, it's very much clear that collectivist kind of a culture, where they are like, they think about the other group members also, they share the group goals, and there is a kind of a dependence, and they conform to whatever the culture demands. I mean, the collectivist culture, whatever the group demands, they conform to those views. Mostly, this is like a broad description of collectivist culture. And individualistic culture explains independence, uniqueness, self goals, spontaneity, and short term thinking. So, this is basically practiced in the regions of Europe and North America. So, we were like, looking at both the cultures, and there are certain kinds of differences which we saw right now. So they differ in these aspects. Now, one term it has been written here, ethnocentrism. What is ethnocentrism? It is when it happens when people often evaluate the customs and practices of other groups according to one's own cultural standards. This often results in prejudice, discrimination, and inter-ethnic conflict. So remember the term, it is ethnocentrism. Comes from the word ethnic groups. There are so many different ethnic groups present, and due to the presence of those ethnic groups, we see ethnocentrism, where a particular culture, people of a particular culture, they think that their culture is the most appropriate one, and it is the most justifiable one. And when they meet people, or when they come to know about the people of other cultures, they think that their cultural practices are not as appropriate as theirs. So they discriminate among the both the groups. I mean, between both the groups, they'll say that whatever cultural practices they do, it is very much correct, appropriate, and acceptable in the society. But whatever the other cultural groups they do, they think that it is not correct. It is against the ethics, and sometimes these kind of thinking and cognitive behavior, it leads to prejudice, discrimination, and inter-ethnic conflict, which means that you try to look down upon the other culture's people, which is not good. So, this term is known as ethnocentrism. The cultural transmission occurs through interaction with many people, including who are the sources of this cultural transmission. It is parents, teachers, peers, and also in various contexts. We meet these people like parents, teachers, and peers in various contexts. So, we try to adapt, and there is the cultural transmission. Whatever culture your parents will transmit to you, that you will accept, and whatever culture your teachers are transmitting to you, whatever correct manner of behaving they are teaching you, you are learning those kind of behavior, and that is the cultural transmission. The peers, the friends, I mean your friend circle, the friend circle in which you are there will highly influence your behavior. And it happens even without the knowing of the person. It happens like, it is very much automatic in nature, because we try to adapt, we easily adapt to the surrounding events and the surrounding practices to which we are exposed to for a longer period of time. So the more we are in a particular kind of a friend circle, the more we will tend to act according to their norms, and we'll try to talk, we'll try to dress up like them. So that makes the friend circle more stronger. This is one another phenomenon which we will also see, but it usually happens, and this is also known as the way, I mean, this is also one kind of a cultural transmission. Next topic is the process of cultural shaping. It is through the process of cultural transmission that a person becomes a full-fledged member of a culture. And this process is a prolonged process, of course. When we are born, we take time to grow. We go to the school, we learn different things. We learn about the academics, we learn about the correct manner of behaving. We learn how to talk, how to behave, in what surrounding area, in what context, what to speak. We learn all these things throughout our life. So We meet different kinds of people everywhere. We expose ourselves to different cultures. For, like, when you're going to the school, there are so many children. They belong to different cultural groups. You mix with them, you talk to them, you adapt to their cultural practices. And even if not cultural practices, at least somehow you learn something from them. So that's how it is, like a process of cultural transmission. Then in your family, you go to different family get togethers, you see, you get to learn so many things about your family's practices, your family's culture, and that you will, after after like a few years, you yourself will be in that position carrying out those kind of practices. So you learn from your parents, you learn from your relatives, you learn from your surrounding people with whom you interact, like teachers, peers, parents, family members. And this cultural transmission is a prolonged process. Cultural context has a formative role in psychological functioning. Yes, the way we think, it is highly influenced by our cultural practices. Whatever culture we belong to, in at the end of the day, you see, you will try to conform to what your parents will allow, your parents will not allow, you will try to listen to them. So they are transmitting their culture to you. And it is a prolonged process in which you will notice that you learn so many things, not deliberately, but because you are like exposed to them for a longer period of time. And these come under the process of cultural shaping, and this comes under the process of cultural transmission. So the idea of psychic unity is not acceptable, as it is noted that Western and Asian cultures, they differ in the ways they think. So some years back, few psychologists, they just tried to study the Asian cultures and the Western cultures. So they found out that they both differ. They both differ highly. Like in the beginning of this video, we read about the collectivist and the individualistic cultures, their differences. So we noted that there are so many different things between both the cultures. So both the cultures, they will have people who think in a different manner. It is not necessary that the people coming from both the cultures, they will have same kind of a life goal, same kind of a behavior in most of the in various contexts. So that's why we cannot tell that a person will entirely behave in one manner only. I mean, for example, if there is if a person is feeling hungry, if a person is feeling thirsty, it will depend upon what cultural practice he has been exposed to for the past few years of his life, and the way he acts to fulfill that need, that will show his cultural background. I mean, there are certain cultural practices which we try to conform to. So when a person is feeling thirsty, like in the collectivist culture, let me give you an example. There is a shortage of water, and a person coming from that background, he feels thirsty. So what will he do? He will go and fetch water, but he will also think about the other group members of his own culture, of his own society, as the characteristic features it suggests. But individualistic culture, they are very self dependent people. They think about themselves. So, both cultures, people will have both different minds. That's why we cannot say that everyone will have the same kind of a thought, and that's why psychic unity concept is not much acceptable. Western thought is very much analytic. People in the Western side, they are very analytic. They focus on object and its attributes, use those attributes to categorize. They also use the universal laws. These laws are deterministic and linear, and it implies a formal logic. So their thinking is based upon analytic thinking, whereas Asian thought is very much holistic, and it focuses on the field in which the object is located, emphasizes the relationship between the object and field, universal laws are absent and control is difficult. So, formal logic is replaced by reliance or experiential knowledge and prefers a dialectical approach. In the Western thought style, we saw that it is like the laws are deterministic and they are linear in nature, which implies a formal logic, and um, formal logic means mostly objective. So, here in Asian thought, we see there is a dialectical approach, and the formal logic can be replaced by reliance or experiential knowledge. This shows that there are so many differences between both kinds of a thought, and that's why the idea of the psychic unity cannot be accepted readily. Next topic is the process of cultural transmission. How does this process of cultural transmission occur? It occurs through the teaching and learning mechanisms. Someone is there to teach and someone is there to learn all these cultural habits. The cultural groups, they perpetuate their behavioral features among the subsequent generations. So this has been going on from generations to generations, that we are able to learn all these cultural habits and cultural practices. Learning from own culture involves two processes, enculturation and socialization, whereas learning from other cultures involves one process known as acculturation. Enculturation is the process where all learning in human life occurs because of what is available to be learned without any deliberate teaching. So, yes, it will happen in your own culture only because you are exposed to that kind of a surrounding. You are exposed, you live in a family where your parents are present, your siblings are present, and it may happen that in a joint family, your uncle and aunts are present, their children are present, extended family is there, relatives are there, neighbors are there. So, what is happening? When you are of the same culture, you will learn so many things from them only. And it is when it is happening in your own house, there is no deliberate teaching. Like, no one is there to readily teach you something, but when you are seeing your elders, you are learning it readily. So, that's why enculturation happens in one's own culture only. It is primarily based on the cultural surroundings of the individual. No direct or specific teaching is required. Example, effects of conformity, like behavior and modeling. It is the observational learning mostly, where you see and you learn. So that is also known as modeling. Next is, there are so many sources to learn, and it is like readily available in the environment. So you are like seeing and you are learning it readily through the process of modeling. Process involves parents, peers, other adult members, and they form a network of influences. Next is the process of socialization. It is the process by which an individual is led to develop actual behaviors which are confined within a much narrower range, customary and acceptable to the group. So uh, when you are seeing this socialization, you will notice that it is a process by which an individual is led to develop the behaviors. The individual is being, the individual is slowly developing that kind of behavior which are confined within a much narrower range, that is customary and acceptable to the group. You are under a group and you do things that will be readily accepted by them. So there are two basic phases. One is primary and secondary. Primary takes place during the infancy and childhood, mostly within the family setting, and secondary learning takes place when the child goes outside the family. So what could be that? Agents of socialization will explain this point. See, socialization will occur in a child right after the child is born, and he or she is an infant, because there are parents, there are relatives, there are siblings surrounding the kid. And as the child grows up slowly, the family setting will first provide the the first instance of cultural transmission will take place during the childhood. So, family here becomes the first major source of socialization. Then, next, when the child grows up, slowly starts going to the school, then the school will provide another major important source or major important agent of socialization. So, in the school, education takes place, you gain education, and also you learn other aspects of behavior, like the ways you cooperate in the society, how will you act in front of your elders, what manners you should inculcate in you, what habits, what good habits you should emulate in you to become a successful person. All these things are taught in the school itself. So school is another important agent of socialization from which we learn a great deal of things that will help us in future. Next is peers. Peer group is roughly of the same age of the person who is like of the child who is into the process of learning the cultural habits, cultural practices. So the peer group will also influence the behavior to some extent. Another is mass media. Mass media helps in transmitting the culture through the TV, newspapers, radio, magazines, movies. We watch all these. We engage in such activities like reading the newspapers, listening to the radio, watching the television, watching movies, and we learn so many things from it. We while we are seeing, we will think that we are just watching it like that and we are not paying full attention, but actually we subconsciously learn so many things from it, and we also try to act like that. That's why in one of the experiments, like you have seen of this modeling only, of experiment of Bandura, there when the children are watching the violent cartoons, they after some time they will also try to act violent because they watched that behavior right before, I mean some time before, and they learned that behavior. So same thing happens with other human beings also. Next is the parenting or parental practices that influence a person's behavior. So it could be like the emotional responsiveness, what kind of a emotional responsiveness the parent carries, and also how much controlling and demanding the parent is. So there are two dimensions, all these, this emotional responsiveness and control or demand. One kind is authoritarian kind of parent who is low in warmth and higher in control, more controlling towards the kid. I mean, like they will more try to control the kid. They will not allow the kid to do things on his own way. Next is authoritative. They are higher on warmth and lower on control. They are like very much nice, good people, goody goody types, where they support the child. They also try to stop when the child is doing something wrong, but they also support the kid in doing whatever he likes to do. Next is permissive. In the dimension of warmth, they are unstable and controlling is low. So basically, it's like not a very good parenting style. The best parenting style is authoritative, where the children will also learn the good habits from the parents. He or she will also learn the cultural practices. He'll get attached to the cultural habits and practices, and also will have his or her own kind of a mental abilities, because that child will be allowed to think, that child will be allowed to do things on his own, and parents are not much controlling in this type of authoritative category. So next is acculturation. This this uh, process happens when the cultural transmission is happening outside one's culture. So it is a form of a cultural change which is in response to contact with other cultures, and it often leads to change in the behavior. So what is acculturation? Acculturation is happening when you are getting in touch or when you are interacting with people from other cultures, and that is influencing your behavior in some way or the other. That is bringing a change in your behavior. So this happens in two levels. One is the individual level and the other is the group level. So individual level, it will happen psychologically, psychological acculturation, where you will get to see the change in identity, values, ethics, attitudes. Group level, it happens in the changes occur in social structure, economic base, political organization, etc. So here, what happens is that in the process of acculturation, when you are coming in contact with the people of other cultures, what could happen? You just like sit and try to think what kind of changes you will see in your behavior. Either there would be some good things about the other culture which you would like to accept, or it could be something which you are not very much agreeable with. So that is reinterpreted, or something of the other culture will not at all please you, so you will be in the denial mode, so that will be denied. So changes are accepted, reinterpreted, or denied. There are four kinds of acculturative strategies which needs to get attention. First is the assimilation. In the process of assimilation, there is no desire to maintain culture and identity. They seek daily interaction with the dominant society. So assimilation is happening when there is no desire to maintain one's own culture, one's own identity. You are not even thinking about maintaining your identity. You are like going on accepting whatever the dominant society, the dominant people from the dominant culture, they are making you do, you are doing that. So that is assimilation. You are totally trying to assimilate to their culture. Second is separation. It lays emphasis on maintaining original culture, avoid interaction with the other. So, in the process of separation, you are avoiding the interaction with others. You're not interacting with other cultures people. You have a high emphasis on maintaining your original culture. So that is total separation. You are separating yourself from other cultures. Third is integration. Here the interest is in dual goal. You want to maintain your original culture and you also like interaction with other culture people. So that is integration. It is quite healthy and you're trying to maintain a balance between both. Marginalization here is low interest or possibility either in maintaining own culture or relating with other. Marginalization means that you're not even interested in maintaining your own culture, neither you are interested in interacting with other people or trying to get to know about their culture. So this is like a nil situation in both the cultures. I mean, like, in both the situations you are giving no reaction. You don't want to maintain your own culture, neither do you want to learn about their cultures, I mean the other culture. So acculturation, it leads to two types of changes. There could be the behavioral changes, or there could be acculturative stress. So stress may usually happen during the process of separation, I must say, but certain behavioral changes are very well noticed. Last is cultural contact in the contemporary period. In today's world, cultural contact is increasing because due to the globalization, due to the better job opportunities in the bigger cities and in the most developed areas of the country, people are they are migrating to such places. So the people who are migrating from different areas, different regions, they are coming together due to their work, because they are said to be working in that particular MNCs or whatever you could say. In seek of better job opportunities, they leave their small towns and they go to bigger cities. So what is happening there? They are meeting with so many people from different cultural backgrounds, and they are trying to either adapt, they are getting to know about each other, and also that is influencing their behavior in turn. So there is a kind of a cultural borrowing scene which is occurring. And also, due to this reason, because of the growing MNCs, because of the highly migration of people from one place to the other in search of jobs in different regions, better amenities, better job opportunities, people are migrating from one place to the other. And the bigger cities, there the population is increasing. For that reason, there is a possibility of emergence of a globalized homogeneous culture, which is also known as the world culture. I mean, the idea of this world culture is being created. Something like world culture is being talked among the people because of this reason only. And there are so many, because of the growing use of the internet, I must say, there are so many people from around the globe who are getting in touch with each other. Something we are liking about them, something we are liking about the westerners, like the style of the dress, the style of their makeup, we are trying to adapt to it. And now we are trying to dress up like them, we are trying to do all the makeup like them. So there is a kind of a exchange of the cultures, exchange of the ideas and thinking in so many different ways. That's why the idea of world culture is being talked about. And also it is seen that the modern societies, they are becoming more and more reflexive. They're trying to adapt to all these things quite easily. And that's why this idea is also gaining much importance, that because of globalization, we could also like move to the global culture, or people may get like drained of it and they may return back to their own cultural practices. What's gonna happen? It's like a still a question mark is there. So social life, it involves interactions through which people they take account of each other's behavior in determining their own behavior. And we saw that the biological predispositions, they may create behavioral tendencies, but human beings, they engage in conscious reflection on the significance of these dispositions for their own action. So we just not only depend on the biological predispositions, but we consciously think about and we consciously reflect upon what we are going to do. And before we do, we consciously think, we consciously reflect, and that's why whatever is the outcome is quite different. I mean, like it's quite much more than just the biological mechanisms working. So that's all for this video, and chapter 2 is finished. In the next video we'll start with chapter 3. So before like ending this video, I would like to tell you all to please click on the subscribe button, share this video, like this video, give it a big thumbs up, and thank you for watching.